Dr. Amanda Blake stepped off the shuttle and looked around the alien world for the first time. The planet called Kepler 442b spread out before her like nothing she had ever seen. Purple grass covered rolling hills that stretched to the horizon. Strange trees with silver leaves caught the light from the orange sun overhead. Crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. Amanda pulled her scanner from her belt and took readings of the air. Everything looked safe. The oxygen levels were good for humans. The temperature felt warm but not too hot. She smiled and took her first breath of alien air without her helmet. "Blake, stay close to the landing zone." Captain Jake Morrison's voice crackled through her radio. "We don't know what's out there yet." Amanda nodded but kept walking toward the crystal formations. As the team's xenobiologist, her job was to study any life forms they found. The crystals looked interesting, but what caught her attention was something moving near them. She pulled out her binoculars and looked closer. A small creature lay on its side near the base of the largest crystal. Even from a distance, Amanda could see it was hurt. Dark fluid stained the purple grass around it. "Captain, I see an injured animal near the crystals," Amanda said into her radio. "What kind of animal?" Jake's voice came back sharp with concern. Amanda moved closer, keeping her steps slow and quiet. The creature was about the size of a large dog, but it looked nothing like any Earth animal. Its fur shimmered with colors that changed from blue to green to silver as the light hit it. It had 4 legs like a cat, but its face was longer like a wolf. Small fins ran along its back and tail. "It looks like a mix between a cat and a wolf," Amanda reported. "But it has fins and color-changing fur. It's bleeding from its left side." "Do not approach it," Jake ordered. "We don't know if it's dangerous." Amanda stopped walking but kept watching the creature. It lifted its head and looked right at her. Its eyes were large and dark, with flecks of gold that seemed to glow. The creature made a soft sound, almost like a whimper. Then it laid its head back down on the grass. Something in that sound made Amanda's heart ache. She had always been drawn to hurt animals, even as a child. Her mother used to joke that Amanda would try to help a wounded tiger if she found one. "It's just a baby," Amanda said into her radio, "and it's dying." She could hear Jake talking to the other crew members through the radio chatter. Dr. Lisa Carter, the science officer, was saying something about protocols and safety. Engineer Pete Williams was checking the scanner readings from the ship. Amanda looked at the creature again. It had lifted its head and was watching her with those golden flecked eyes. This time, when it made the soft whimpering sound, Amanda was sure it was calling to her. "I'm going to help it," Amanda announced. "Blake, that's an order. Stay back." Jake's voice was stern. Amanda turned off her radio and walked toward the creature. She moved slowly, keeping her hands visible. The creature watched her approach but didn't try to run or attack. When Amanda got close enough, she could see the wound clearly. Something had clawed the creature's side, leaving 3 deep cuts. "Hey there, little one," Amanda said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The creature tilted its head at the sound of her voice. Then it did something that surprised Amanda. It made a sound that was almost like an echo of her voice. Not the words, but the tone and rhythm. Amanda knelt down slowly and pulled her medical kit from her pack. She had supplies for treating human injuries, but they should work on the creature too. She opened a package of antiseptic wipes and held one up for the creature to see. "This might sting a little," she said. The creature made that echoing sound again, this time matching her gentler tone. It didn't move away when Amanda started cleaning the wounds. Instead, it watched her face with those intelligent eyes. As Amanda worked, she noticed more about the creature. Its fur was incredibly soft, and the color changes seemed to match its emotions. When she first approached, it had been mostly gray and blue. Now it was shifting to warmer colors, greens and golds. "You're a smart one, aren't you?" Amanda said as she applied bandages to the wounds. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The creature made a longer sound this time, almost like it was trying to answer her question. The tone was sad and lost. Amanda finished treating the wounds and sat back on her heels. The creature struggled to sit up, favoring its injured side. Then it did something that made Amanda's breath catch. It reached out with one paw and gently touched her hand. "Dr. Blake," a voice called from behind her. Amanda turned to see Jake and the rest of the team approaching. They all had their weapons ready, but when they saw the scene, they stopped. "What is that thing?" Pete asked, his eyes wide. "It's an injured animal," Amanda said firmly, "and it's just a baby." The creature looked at the approaching humans and moved closer to Amanda. It made a soft growling sound, but not threatening. more like it was nervous about the strangers. "Look at how it's acting," Lisa said, lowering her weapon. "It's protecting her." Jake studied the creature for a long moment. "The scans show it's not carrying any diseases that could hurt us," he said finally. "But we can't take it back to the ship." As if it understood, the creature made that sad sound again. It looked up at Amanda with pleading eyes. "I'll stay with it until it's stronger," Amanda said. "Set up a temporary camp here. I need to monitor its recovery anyway." "Blake, we're not equipped for long-term surface operations," Jake protested. Before Amanda could answer, a loud roar echoed across the landscape. All the humans spun toward the sound, raising their weapons. The creature pressed against Amanda's leg and made a series of quick, urgent sounds. "It's trying to warn us about something," Amanda realized. The roar came again, closer this time. Through the crystal formations, Amanda could see something large moving toward them. The creature tugged at her jacket with its teeth, pulling her toward a gap between two large crystals. "I think it wants us to hide," Amanda said. Jake looked at his scanner, then at the creature. "The readings show something big coming this way. Something with a lot of teeth." The creature made more urgent sounds and pulled harder at Amanda's jacket. Without thinking, the team followed it into the narrow space between the crystals. They pressed against the smooth walls and waited. A massive predator appeared where they had been standing moments before. It was twice the size of an earth bear, with 6 legs and jaws full of razor-sharp teeth. It sniffed the air where they had been, searching for their scent. The creature pressed closer to Amanda and stayed perfectly quiet. The whole team held their breath until the predator moved away. When it was safe, they emerged from their hiding place. Jake looked at the small creature with new respect. "It saved our lives," he said quietly. Amanda reached down and gently stroked the creature's color-changing fur. It made a happy purring sound and nuzzled her hand. "I think we just made our first alien friend," she said. 3 months had passed since Amanda first found the injured creature. The temporary research station now felt like home, and the creature she had named Echo had grown twice its original size. Its wounds had healed completely, leaving only faint scars under its shimmering fur. Echo followed Amanda everywhere. When she collected plant samples, Echo walked beside her, sometimes carrying her equipment bag in its mouth. When she worked at her computer, Echo curled up at her feet. The creature had learned to understand dozens of human words and could follow complex instructions. "Echo, bring me the blue scanner," Amanda said one morning as she prepared for another survey mission. Echo looked at the table where several different scanners lay scattered. Without hesitation, it picked up the correct device and brought it to Amanda. The creature's intelligence amazed everyone on the team. Dr. Lisa Carter watched from across the room. "That animal understands human speech better than some of the translation programs we use," she said. "We need to study it properly." Amanda scratched behind Echo's fins, which had grown larger as the creature matured. Echo made a happy rumbling sound and leaned into her touch. "Echo isn't just an animal," Amanda said. "The neural scans I've taken show brain activity patterns that suggest advanced emotional intelligence. This species might be as smart as humans, just in different ways." Lisa walked over and looked at Amanda's research notes. "These readings are incredible. Look at this brain activity when Echo interacts with you compared to when it's with the rest of us." Amanda studied the data on her screen. The neural patterns showed clear differences. When Echo was with Amanda, certain areas of its brain became more active. The same areas that controlled emotions and social bonding in humans. "It's forming an emotional attachment," Amanda said quietly. "Not just learning behaviors, but actually bonding with me." Echo seemed to sense they were talking about it. The creature moved closer to Amanda and made a soft questioning sound. Its fur shifted to curious yellows and greens. "See that?" Amanda pointed to her scanner. "Echo's emotional state affects its fur color. And it responds to my emotional state too. Watch this." Amanda deliberately thought about something sad. Her expression changed slightly, and within seconds, Echo's fur darkened to blues and grays. The creature moved even closer and gently nuzzled Amanda's arm. "Remarkable," Lisa breathed. "It's reading your micro-expressions and responding emotionally." Engineer Pete Williams looked up from where he was fixing a power cable. "That creature has been more help than some of my assistants back on Earth. Yesterday, it detected a coolant leak in the reactor before my instruments did." Captain Jake Morrison entered the station carrying supply boxes from the shuttle. Echo immediately moved to greet him. But the creature's behavior was different with Jake. More respectful, less personal. Any word from Command about our mission extension? Amanda asked. Jake set down the boxes and looked uncomfortable. They approved another 2 months, but they're asking a lot of questions about your pet. Echo isn't a pet, Amanda said firmly. This is groundbreaking research. We're documenting the first case of true interspecies emotional bonding. Echo made a sound that seemed to agree with Amanda. The creature had learned to recognize its name and apparently understood more human speech than anyone had expected. Jake watched Echo carefully. I'm not doubting your research, Blake, but Command is worried about safety protocols. That thing is getting bigger every day. As if to prove Jake's point, Echo stood up and stretched. The creature now came up to Amanda's waist and weighed at least 60 pounds. Its muscles had developed as it grew, and its claws were sharp enough to cut through metal. Echo would never hurt me, Amanda said, reaching out to stroke the creature's head. We have a bond that goes beyond normal animal behavior. Lisa was still studying the brain scans. Amanda's right. Look at these neural patterns. When Echo is separated from Amanda, even for a few hours, stress hormones flood its system. This isn't just learned behavior. It's a genuine emotional attachment. Pete finished his work and walked over to see the data. I've noticed something else. Echo seems to understand cause and effect better than most Earth animals. Last week I was struggling with a stuck valve. Echo watched me work, then started making sounds and pointing with its paw. It had figured out that the problem was with a different component entirely. Amanda smiled and looked down at Echo. The creature was watching the conversation with bright, attentive eyes. Its fur had shifted to calm greens and blues. Echo, show Pete how you help with the equipment checks, Amanda said. The creature immediately went to the equipment lockers and began a routine it had learned by watching Amanda. Echo sniffed each piece of equipment and made different sounds for each one. A short chirp meant everything was normal. A longer warbling call meant something needed attention. It's developed its own system for communicating about technical problems, Pete said in amazement. That's not just intelligence. That's creative problem solving. Jake crossed his arms and watched Echo work. I admit the creature has been useful. But what happens when we have to leave? We can't take it back to Earth. Amanda's face fell. She hadn't wanted to think about that day. We'll figure something out. Maybe Echo's species is nomadic. Maybe it can find others of its kind. Echo finished the equipment check and returned to Amanda's side. The creature seemed to sense her change in mood because its fur darkened slightly and it pressed against her leg. Look at that response, Lisa said softly. It knows you're upset. Over the following weeks, Echo's abilities continued to develop. The creature learned to operate simple controls and could even activate emergency protocols if needed. It memorized the daily routines of all the team members and seemed to anticipate their needs. But it was Echo's relationship with Amanda that truly amazed everyone. The creature could tell when Amanda was tired and would bring her a blanket. When she worked too long without eating, Echo would fetch her food rations. If Amanda seemed sad or stressed, Echo would find ways to make her laugh. One evening, Amanda was analyzing soil samples when Echo suddenly became agitated. The creature moved to the station's entrance and made urgent warning sounds. What is it, Echo? Amanda asked. Echo ran back to Amanda and tugged at her clothes, then returned to the entrance. Through the transparent walls, Amanda could see nothing unusual in the purple twilight. Echo seems to think something's wrong, Amanda called to the others. Jake checked his instruments. All readings are normal, but Echo kept making worried sounds and pacing by the entrance. Finally, Amanda decided to trust the creature's instincts. Everyone check your equipment and seal the station, she ordered. Minutes later, their instruments detected an incoming storm. The weather system was powerful enough to damage their equipment and possibly injure anyone caught outside. How did Echo know that was coming? Pete asked as they watched lightning flash across the alien sky. Amanda looked at Echo, who was now calm and relaxed again. Maybe this species evolved to sense weather changes, or maybe Echo is just more sensitive to environmental shifts than our instruments. Lisa was taking readings of Echo's brain activity during the storm warning. Whatever the mechanism, Echo saved us again. The neural activity suggests it genuinely cares about our safety. As the storm raged outside, the team gathered around their small heater. Echo lay beside Amanda, its fur a contented warm gold. The creature made soft, rhythmic sounds that almost sounded like purring. You know, Jake said quietly, I'm starting to understand why Amanda is so attached to that creature. Echo isn't just intelligent. It's caring. Amanda ran her fingers through Echo's soft fur. The creature had become such an important part of her life that she couldn't imagine leaving it behind. But she also knew that their time on this planet was limited. As if reading her thoughts, Echo looked up at Amanda with those golden-flecked eyes and made a soft, questioning sound. Amanda had learned to recognize that particular vocalization. It meant, "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, Echo," Amanda said gently. "Everything's fine." But deep down, Amanda knew that wasn't true. Soon they would have to return to Earth. And when that day came, saying goodbye to Echo would be the hardest thing she had ever done. The shuttle from Earth arrived on a gray morning when the orange sun barely peeked through thick clouds. Amanda stood outside the research station with Echo at her side, watching the transport ship land. Her stomach twisted with dread because she knew why the shuttle had come. Dr. Helen Ross stepped out of the shuttle, followed by 2 assistants and a security officer. She was a tall, stern woman with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her cold eyes swept over the research station and then focused on Echo. "Doctor." "Blake," Helen said in a crisp voice. "I'm here to collect the alien specimen for transport to the Xenobiology Research Institute on Mars." Echo moved closer to Amanda, its fur shifting to nervous gray and blue colors. The creature had never seen Helen before, but it seemed to sense the tension in the air. "Echo isn't a specimen," Amanda said firmly. "This is a sentient being with advanced intelligence and emotional capabilities." Helen pulled out a data pad and scrolled through files. "Your reports are interesting, Dr. Blake, but proper scientific study requires controlled laboratory conditions. Personal attachment compromises objective research." Amanda felt her anger rising. Personal attachment. This bond between Echo and me is the most significant discovery in xenobiology history. We're documenting the first case of true interspecies emotional communication. Emotional communication? Helen's voice carried skepticism. "Dr. Blake, you've been isolated on this planet for months with minimal human contact. It's natural to project feelings onto an animal." Echo made a soft sound and looked up at Amanda with worried eyes. The creature could sense her distress and moved even closer, pressing against her leg for comfort. Captain Jake Morrison emerged from the station with Dr. Lisa Carter and Engineer Pete Williams. All 3 looked unhappy about the situation. "Dr. Ross," Jake said formally, "I want it on record that Echo has been valuable to our mission. The creature has saved our lives multiple times and shown remarkable intelligence." Helen barely glanced at Jake. "Captain Morrison, your job is transportation and security, not scientific assessment. The Federation has decided that proper study of this organism requires institute facilities." Lisa stepped forward with a data pad full of research. "Dr. Ross, please look at these brain scans. Echo shows neural activity patterns that indicate advanced cognitive function and emotional intelligence. Separating Echo from Dr. Blake could cause severe psychological trauma." "Psychology implies consciousness, Dr. Carter," Helen said dismissively. "You're anthropomorphizing an alien animal." Echo seemed to understand that these strangers were talking about it. The creature moved protectively in front of Amanda and made a low rumbling sound. Not threatening, but clearly defensive. "Look at that behavior," Amanda said urgently. "Echo understands this conversation. It knows you want to take it away from me." Helen's assistants unpacked a large containment unit from the shuttle. It was made of clear metal with small air holes and restraint systems inside. When Echo saw the cage, its fur darkened to deep blues and blacks. "No," Amanda said firmly. "I won't let you put Echo in that thing." "Dr. Blake, you don't have a choice in this matter," Helen said coldly. "Federation Command has issued direct orders. The specimen will be transported to Mars for proper study." Pete Williams spoke up. "Echo has learned to help with station maintenance and equipment checks. This creature has skills that could be valuable for future missions." "Trained behaviors don't constitute intelligence," Helen replied. "Dolphins can be trained to perform complex tasks, but that doesn't make them sentient." Amanda knelt down beside Echo and put her arms around the creature's neck. Echo's fur was now almost completely black with worry and fear. "Listen to me," Amanda said to Helen. "Echo's species, which I've designated as Cathari, shows neural structures that allow for cross-species emotional bonding. This discovery could revolutionize how humanity interacts with alien civilizations. Helen looked at her datapad again. Your emotional involvement has clearly compromised your scientific objectivity. The Institute will conduct proper behavioral studies without personal bias. The security officer stepped forward. Ma'am, we need to proceed with the transfer. The transport ship has a schedule to maintain. Amanda stood up slowly, her hands still resting on Echo's head. What if I refuse to cooperate? Then you'll be charged with interference with a Federation scientific mission, Helen said without emotion. Your career will be over and the specimen will be taken anyway. Echo seemed to understand the threat in Helen's voice. The creature moved between Amanda and the strangers, its fur now showing flashes of angry red along with the fearful black. Easy, Echo, Amanda said softly. Don't make this worse. Helen's assistants approached with the containment unit. Dr. Blake, please step away from the specimen so we can proceed with the transfer. Her name is Echo, Amanda said through gritted teeth. Not specimen or it. Echo is an individual with thoughts and feelings. Anthropomorphism, Dr. Blake, Helen said tiredly. You've assigned human characteristics to an alien animal. This is exactly why personal attachment compromises research. The assistants moved closer with the cage. Echo backed away, pressing against Amanda and making distressed sounds. The creature's fur was now cycling rapidly through dark colors, showing extreme agitation. Please, Amanda begged. Just give me one demonstration. Let me show you the bond Echo and I share. Helen checked her chronometer. You have 5 minutes. Amanda knelt down and looked into Echo's golden-flecked eyes. Echo, I need you to show these people how smart you are. Can you do that for me? Echo's fur slowly shifted from black to worried blues and grays. The creature nodded once, a gesture it had learned from watching humans. Echo, what sound does the equipment make when it needs maintenance? Amanda asked. Echo immediately made the longer, warbling call it used to indicate mechanical problems. And what sound means everything is working correctly? Echo made the short, cheerful chirp it used for normal equipment status. Now, Echo, can you show Dr. Ross how you help with safety checks? Echo walked to the station's control panel and began its routine. The creature checked each system indicator and made appropriate sounds for each one. When it found a minor power fluctuation, Echo pointed to the specific control with its paw and made urgent sounds. Pete quickly checked the reading. Echo's right. There's a small power drain in Section C. I didn't even notice it. Helen watched with interest but remained unmoved. Impressive training, but this proves my point. Proper study requires understanding how these behaviors develop. Echo returned to Amanda's side and looked up at her with pleading eyes. The creature made a soft sound that Amanda had learned meant, help me. Echo doesn't want to leave, Amanda said desperately. Forced separation will traumatize both of us. Dr. Blake, your emotional state is exactly why you can't continue this research, Helen said firmly. Science requires objectivity. The assistants moved forward again with the containment unit. This time Echo backed away and made a sound Amanda had never heard before. It was a long, mournful cry that seemed to express pure anguish. Stop, Amanda said, tears forming in her eyes. You're terrifying, Echo. The specimen will calm down once it's in a controlled environment, Helen said without sympathy. Jake Morrison stepped forward. Dr. Ross, I'm filing a formal protest of this decision with Federation Command. Your protest is noted, Captain, Helen replied. But the orders stand. Echo's cries grew louder and more desperate as the assistants approached. The creature looked around frantically, as if searching for an escape route. Then Echo did something that broke Amanda's heart. The creature lay, down on the ground and rolled over, exposing its belly in a gesture of complete submission. Echo, no, Amanda whispered. Don't give up. But Echo remained on its back, making soft, defeated sounds. The creature's fur had faded to pale gray, the color of resignation. The assistants quickly moved the containment unit into position. Working together, they lifted Echo and placed the creature inside the cage. Echo didn't resist, but its golden eyes never left Amanda's face. As the cage sealed shut, Echo pressed against the clear walls and made that heartbreaking cry again. The sound echoed across the alien landscape like a call for help that would never be answered. Amanda reached toward the cage, but the security officer blocked her way. "Ma'am, please step back." "Echo," Amanda called out. "I'll find a way to come for you, I promise." As the shuttle prepared for departure, Echo's cries became continuous. The creature's distress was so obvious that even Helen's assistants looked uncomfortable. "The specimen will adjust," Helen said as they loaded the cage into the shuttle. "Behavioral adaptation is a survival mechanism." Amanda watched helplessly as the shuttle doors closed with Echo still crying inside. The transport ship lifted off, carrying away the most important relationship of her life. Long after the shuttle disappeared into the gray sky, Amanda could still hear Echo's desperate calls echoing in her memory. The Xenobiology Research Institute on Mars was a cold, sterile place built inside a massive dome. Bright white lights hummed constantly overhead, and the air smelled of disinfectant and recycled atmosphere. Echo had been there for 6 weeks, and every day was the same routine of tests, observations, and isolation. Dr. Kevin Murphy walked through the facility's corridors toward Echo's containment area. As the Institute's animal behaviorist, he had seen many creatures adapt to captivity. But Echo was different. The creature's condition was getting worse every day. The sound hit Kevin before he even reached Echo's section. It was a low, continuous whining that seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves. Other researchers hurried past with uncomfortable expressions, trying to ignore the haunting noise. Kevin entered the observation room and looked through the reinforced glass at Echo's enclosure. The creature lay in the center of the space, its once beautiful fur now a dull gray color. Echo's head was raised toward the ceiling, and that heartbreaking whine poured from its throat without pause. "How long has it been making that sound today?" Kevin asked Dr. Sarah Jin, one of the research assistants. "Since about 6 this morning," Sarah replied, checking her notes. "That's 14 hours straight. It only stopped for 20 minutes around noon when it drank some water." Kevin studied Echo's behavior through the glass. The creature barely moved except to lift its head higher when the whining intensified. Its golden-flecked eyes stared at nothing, as if Echo was looking for something that wasn't there. "Any change in appetite?" Kevin asked. Sarah shook her head. "Echo ate maybe half a food portion yesterday. The day before that, nothing at all. Dr. Ross says it's normal adjustment behavior, but I've never seen anything like this." Kevin had worked with animals for 20 years, and he knew distress when he saw it. Echo wasn't adjusting to captivity. The creature was shutting down. "What about the medical scans?" Kevin asked. Sarah pulled up data on her tablet. "Physical health is declining. Stress hormones are through the roof. Sleep patterns are completely disrupted. Echo maybe sleeps 2 hours a day, and even then it keeps making those sounds." Through the glass, Kevin watched Echo struggle to its feet and walk to the wall nearest the door. The creature pressed its body against the barrier and increased the volume of its whining. Then Echo began a new behavior that made Kevin's heart sink. The creature started scratching at the wall with its claws, leaving long marks in the metal surface. But it wasn't random scratching. Echo was making deliberate patterns over and over again. "Has anyone analyzed those marks?" Kevin asked. "Dr. Ross says it's just stress behavior," Sarah replied. "But I think Echo is trying to communicate something." Kevin pulled up the security footage from the past week and watched Echo's scratching patterns in fast forward. The creature made the same sequence of marks every time. 3 long scratches, 2 short ones, then a curved line. "Get me the files on Dr. Blake's research from the field station," Kevin ordered. Sarah looked surprised. Dr. Ross said those files were contaminated by emotional bias. "Get them anyway," Kevin said firmly. While Sarah retrieved the files, Kevin continued watching Echo. The creature had returned to its position in the center of the enclosure and resumed the constant whining. But now Kevin noticed something else. Every few minutes, Echo would turn toward the door and make a different sound. A short, questioning call. When Sarah returned with Amanda Blake's research files, Kevin dove into the data immediately. Amanda had documented hundreds of Echo's vocalizations and their meanings. The short, questioning call meant, "Where are you?" Kevin felt sick. Echo wasn't just whining randomly. The creature was calling for Amanda. Look at this, Kevin said, showing Sarah the research. Dr. Blake documented that Echo uses specific vocalizations to communicate. That questioning sound means Echo is looking for her. Sarah read over the data with growing concern. And the scratching patterns? Kevin compared the security footage to Amanda's notes about Echo's communication attempts. 3 long, 2 short curved line. According to this, Echo uses physical gestures to supplement vocal communication. This pattern might be Echo's way of writing Amanda's name. The implications hit both researchers at the same time. Echo wasn't just a distressed animal. The creature was deliberately trying to communicate its need for Amanda. We need to report this to Dr. Ross, Sarah said. Kevin nodded, but he wasn't optimistic about Helen Ross's response. The institute director had made it clear that she considered Amanda's research to be emotionally compromised. That afternoon, Kevin presented his findings to Dr. Ross in her office. Helen listened with a skeptical expression, while Kevin explained Echo's communication patterns and declining health. Dr. Murphy, you're making the same mistake Dr. Blake made, Helen said when Kevin finished. You're attributing human motivations to animal behavior. But the evidence clearly shows that Echo is trying to communicate, Kevin protested. The creature understands that it's been separated from Dr. Blake and is expressing distress about it. Helen pulled up Echo's medical data on her computer. The specimen is experiencing normal captivity stress. It will adapt given time. Dr. Ross, Echo's health is deteriorating rapidly, Kevin said urgently. Stress hormones at these levels can cause organ failure. We could lose the creature entirely. Then we'll learn valuable information about the species' stress responses. Helen replied coldly. That's useful scientific data. Kevin stared at her in disbelief. You're willing to let Echo die for data? Dr. Murphy, your emotional attachment to the specimen is clouding your judgment, Helen said. I'm reassigning you to other projects. Dr. Williams will take over Echo's behavioral assessment. Kevin left Helen's office feeling frustrated and angry, but he couldn't stop thinking about Echo's desperate attempts to communicate. That evening, he returned to the observation area after hours. The whining had gotten worse. Echo now made the sound almost continuously, pausing only to make that questioning call toward the door. The creature's fur had darkened to an unhealthy gray-black color that Kevin had never seen in the research notes. Dr. Sarah Jin was still in the observation room, looking exhausted. You should go home, Kevin told her. There's nothing more we can do tonight. I can't leave, Sarah said quietly. Listen to that sound. Echo is asking for help and we're just watching it suffer. Kevin looked at Echo's scratching marks on the wall. The creature had worn deep grooves in the metal, repeating the same pattern hundreds of times. It was like watching someone write a desperate letter that would never be delivered. What if we contacted Dr. Blake? Sarah suggested. Maybe if Echo could just see her, even through video communication. Dr. Ross would never approve it, Kevin said. She's convinced that any contact with Dr. Blake would compromise the research. They stood in silence, watching Echo's continued distress. The creature had lost significant weight and moved with obvious weakness. Its once bright eyes were now dull and listless. This is wrong, Sarah said finally. Whatever Echo is, it's suffering in a way that goes beyond normal animal distress. Kevin nodded. He had seen animals adapt to captivity many times, but he had never seen anything like Echo's desperate communication attempts and obvious grief. The next morning brought worse news. Echo had stopped drinking water and lay motionless in its enclosure. The constant whining had finally stopped, but the silence was more alarming than the noise had been. Kevin rushed to the medical bay where Dr. Williams was running emergency scans on Echo. What's the situation? Kevin asked. Dr. Williams looked grim. The creature is shutting down. All systems are slowing. If this continues, we'll lose it within days. Kevin looked at Echo lying on the medical table. The creature's breathing was shallow and its fur had faded to an almost colorless gray. But when Echo heard Kevin's voice, it opened its eyes and made one soft, questioning call. It's still trying to ask where Dr. Blake is, Kevin said quietly. Dr. Williams checked the medical readings again. Kevin, I think you were right about the emotional bonding. This isn't just captivity stress. Echo is dying of separation from Dr. Blake. Kevin made a decision that could end his career. I'm going to contact Federation Command directly. Dr. Ross can fire me, but I won't stand by and watch Echo die when we know what could save it. Sarah entered the medical bay with urgent news. Dr. Murphy, Echo stopped eating entirely 2 days ago. But I found something interesting in the security footage. She showed him video of Echo's enclosure from early that morning. The creature had used its remaining strength to scratch one final pattern on the wall. But this time it wasn't the same sequence as before. The pattern looked like a simple drawing of two figures side by side. One larger, one smaller, connected by a curved line. Echo drew itself with Dr. Blake, Kevin said in amazement. This is artistic representation. The creature is expressing abstract concepts. Kevin knew he had to act fast. Echo was running out of time, and he was probably the only person who understood what was really happening. As he prepared to contact Federation Command, Echo made one last soft sound that seemed to contain all the loneliness in the universe. Dr. Kevin Murphy stood in the communication center of the Mars Institute, his hands shaking as he prepared to make the most important call of his career. Echo was dying, and he was about to bypass his superior and contact Federation Command directly. This could end his career, but he couldn't watch Echo fade away without trying everything. Admiral Susan Crawford, Xenological Affairs, came the crisp voice through the communication system. Admiral, this is Dr. Kevin Murphy at the Mars Xenobiology Institute. I'm calling about the Kethery specimen brought from Kepler 442b. Dr. Murphy, shouldn't this communication be coming through Dr. Ross? The Admiral asked. Kevin took a deep breath. Ma'am, I believe Dr. Ross is making a critical error that could result in the loss of the most significant xenobiological discovery in Federation history. There was a pause. Explain. The creature designated Echo is dying from separation trauma. Dr. Blake's research from the field station documents a genuine emotional bond between human and Kethery. This isn't just animal behavior. It's a new form of interspecies communication. Kevin transmitted Echo's medical data and Amanda's research files to Admiral Crawford. While she reviewed the information, he continued his explanation. Echo shows advanced cognitive abilities, including artistic expression and complex communication patterns. The creature has been trying to communicate its distress through vocalizations and physical markings that match Dr. Blake's documented communication system. Dr. Murphy, these are serious allegations, Admiral Crawford said. You're suggesting that Dr. Ross is mishandling a first contact situation. Yes, ma'am. Echo isn't just an alien animal. The Kethery may be sentient beings capable of forming emotional bonds across species lines. If Echo dies, we lose our chance to establish meaningful contact with an alien civilization. Admiral Crawford was quiet for several minutes as she studied the data. Finally, she spoke again. Dr. Murphy, I'm looking at Echo's current medical status. You're telling me this creature is dying from loneliness? From separation trauma? Yes, ma'am. The bond between Echo and Dr. Blake represents a breakthrough in interspecies relations. Forcing them apart is causing psychological and physical damage to both subjects. Both subjects? The Admiral asked. What's Dr. Blake's current status? Kevin had anticipated this question. Dr. Blake has been reassigned to bacterial research on Station Omega-7. According to her supervisor's reports, her work performance has declined significantly since the separation. She's showing signs of depression and has requested transfer back to xenobiology research multiple times. Admiral Crawford made some notes. Dr. Murphy, I'm going to ask you a direct question and I want a direct answer. In your professional opinion, is this Kethery creature sentient? Kevin looked through the observation window at Echo lying motionless in the medical bay. The creature's breathing was barely visible, and its once bright fur had faded to pale gray. Yes, Admiral. I believe Echo is a sentient being experiencing grief over the loss of its bonded companion. If we were dealing with humans in this situation, we would call it a family separation. That's a bold statement, Dr. Murphy. It's the only explanation that fits the evidence. Ma'am, Admiral Crawford was quiet again. When she spoke, her voice was decisive. Dr. Murphy, I'm issuing emergency orders. Dr. Blake is to be transferred to Mars immediately. This situation will be reviewed as a potential first contact scenario. What about Dr. Ross? Kevin asked. Dr. Ross will continue her research, but under new parameters. If your assessment is correct, we're dealing with diplomatic relations, not animal study. Kevin felt relief flood through him. Thank you, Admiral. How soon can Dr. Blake arrive? There's a fast transport leaving Earth in 6 hours. Dr. Blake will be on Mars in 3 days. After ending the communication, Kevin rushed back to the medical bay. Echo's condition had worsened. The creature lay completely still except for shallow breathing. Dr. Williams was monitoring vital signs with increasing concern. "Any change?" Kevin asked. "Echo's barely responsive," Dr. Williams replied. "Heart rate is dangerously low. Brain activity shows the creature is essentially shutting down." Kevin knelt beside the medical table where Echo lay. The creature's golden-flecked eyes opened slightly when it heard his voice. "Hold on, Echo," Kevin said softly. "Amanda is coming. Dr. Blake is coming back." At the mention of Amanda's name, Echo's eyes opened wider. The creature made the faintest sound, barely audible. It was the questioning call that meant, "Where are you?" "She's coming," Kevin repeated. "Just hold on a little longer." The next 3 days were the longest of Kevin's life. Echo's condition remained critical, hovering between life and death. The creature occasionally opened its eyes and made soft sounds, but most of the time it lay motionless. Dr. Ross was furious about Admiral Crawford's intervention, but she couldn't override Federation command. She maintained that Kevin was anthropomorphizing Echo's behavior, but she had to allow Amanda's return. On the 3rd day, Kevin was in the observation room when alarms sounded throughout the facility. Echo's vital signs were failing. The creature was dying. Kevin ran to the medical bay where Dr. Williams was working frantically to stabilize Echo. "Blood pressure is dropping fast," Williams reported. "I don't think Echo can hold on much longer." At that moment, Sarah Jin burst into the room. "The transport from Earth just docked. Dr. Blake is here." Kevin had never seen anyone move as fast as Amanda Blake did that day. She ran through the Institute corridors still wearing her travel clothes, following Kevin to the medical bay. When she reached the door, she stopped short at seeing Echo on the medical table. The creature that had once been vibrant and full of life now looked fragile and broken. Echo's fur was colorless, and the creature barely seemed to be breathing. "Oh, Echo," Amanda whispered, tears forming in her eyes. At the sound of Amanda's voice, something miraculous happened. Echo's eyes opened, and for the first time in weeks they showed brightness. The creature lifted its head slightly and made a sound that was barely audible but unmistakably joyful. "Echo recognizes her," Dr. Williams said in amazement. "Look at the vital signs." On the monitors, Echo's heart rate increased to normal levels. Brain activity spiked, showing patterns of alertness and excitement. Amanda slowly approached the medical table. "Hey there, little one. I'm sorry I was gone so long." Echo struggled to lift its head higher and made the soft rumbling sound that Amanda remembered as a greeting. The creature's fur began to show faint traces of color again, pale golds and greens that grew stronger as Amanda got closer. "Can I touch Echo?" Amanda asked Dr. Williams. "At this point, physical contact might be the only thing that can save the creature," Williams replied. Amanda gently placed her hand on Echo's head. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Echo's breathing deepened and its fur brightened to healthy colors. The creature made a series of soft sounds that clearly expressed relief and happiness. Then Echo did something that brought tears to everyone's eyes. The creature slowly moved its head until it could nuzzle Amanda's shoulder, just like it used to do back on Kepler 442b. "The bond is still there," Kevin said quietly, "even after all this time apart." Amanda carefully sat down beside the medical table and let Echo rest against her. The creature's vital signs continued to improve by the minute. After weeks of decline, Echo was recovering simply from being reunited with Amanda. Dr. Ross entered the medical bay with a skeptical expression, but even she couldn't deny what she was seeing. Echo's transformation from dying creature to healthy, alert being was undeniable. "This is remarkable," Dr. Williams said, checking the medical readings. "Echo's stress hormones are dropping to normal levels. Blood pressure is stabilizing. It's like watching someone come back from the brink of death." Admiral Crawford arrived the next day to review the situation personally. She found Amanda and Echo in a specially prepared observation room, both of them healthy and obviously happy to be reunited. Echo had grown during the separation, now standing as tall as Amanda's chest. But the creature's behavior with Amanda remained affectionate and trusting. Echo responded to Amanda's words, anticipated her needs, and showed clear signs of advanced intelligence. "Dr. Blake," Admiral Crawford said, "I need you to demonstrate this interspecies communication that Dr. Murphy described." Amanda looked at Echo and smiled. "Echo, can you show the Admiral how you help with equipment checks?" Echo immediately began the routine it had learned months ago, checking various pieces of equipment and making specific sounds for each one. When the creature found a minor calibration error in a scanner, it pointed to the problem with its paw and made urgent sounds. "Remarkable," the Admiral said. "This creature understands complex instructions and can identify technical problems." "Echo does more than just follow commands," Amanda explained. "Watch this. Echo, I'm feeling sad about being away from our home planet. Can you help?" Echo immediately moved to Amanda's side and made comforting sounds while gently nuzzling her arm. The creature's fur shifted to warm, soothing colors. "Echo is responding to your emotional state," Admiral Crawford observed. "It's more than that," Amanda said. "Echo and I have developed a genuine emotional bond that transcends species boundaries. This represents a new form of interspecies communication based on empathy rather than just language." Admiral Crawford made her decision quickly.